compete to host Super Bowls, Final Fours, concerts, and so much more.
This morning on Inside Kansas Politics, a victory lap for Kansas as the Chiefs come front and center in the governor's last speech to the state. That's where we start this morning. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung.
And I'm Rob Hughes. We're so glad you're here. Of course, it's the biggest speech of the year. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly gave her final State of the State address this week. Now, the governor shared her legacy and celebrated the state's latest victory, all made possible by working across the aisle.
That's right. It was definitely one for the books, and one of those bipartisan wins she mentioned, probably the most historic, landing the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly put what she calls a touchdown for Kansas front and center in her final address to the state.
Our beloved Chiefs are coming home to Kansas.
The Kansas City Chiefs crossing the state line is a big move for Kansas. The state fronting 70% of the cost for a new $3.3 billion stadium, expecting a big payoff.
We'll compete to host Super Bowls, Final Fours, concerts, and so much more. Thousands of new jobs and billions in new economic activity.
The governor says it's a deal that Democrats and Republicans work together to get done. And she's calling on lawmakers to do the same for other issues, like banning cell phones in schools and addressing the water crisis. But another bipartisan issue that some lawmakers wish she talked more about is property taxes, the snub getting mixed reactions. But since property tax relief seems to be a big issue for both sides, so it does seem to be a bipartisan issue, do you think she should have taken some of this time to address or draw attention to that issue?
Personally, I would have liked to have seen more of a discussion of property taxes. I've said all along that that's been a priority. However, given the limited amount of time that she had, and this again being the final year, she had to look at how far we as Kansans have come to maintain, to stabilize, and to enhance the economic development.
I think she should have maybe brought more attention to the fact that the property tax relief has to come from local governments. You know, your schools, your counties, your townships, your cities.
Property taxes remains a top issue here at the State House, with both sides looking at solutions to make Kansas more affordable. But like we said, one issue that wasn't mentioned, property taxes. We're talking about that this morning.
Yeah, right now some Republicans pushing for a cap on how much local governments can collect. Inside Kansas Politics, Capitol Bureau reporter Braden Day joining us in studio now with the details. Braden.
Yeah, Rob, Rebecca, 26 other states currently have laws in place that limits annual property value increases. Well, Kansas may soon join them, and if they do, the 15 to 20% tax boost we've seen from some Kansans would go away. The new proposed constitutional amendment would place a 3% limit on annual property value increases. This would lower the amount of taxable dollars that local entities can take from property owners. And some say it's a big step towards addressing the property tax crisis. It has the support of Republican lawmakers here in Kansas. However, those in opposition worry that the tax limits would hurt local governments and limit city development. We spoke with an administrator for one of the fastest growing cities in Kansas to find out more about how this new amendment could impact her city and the people who live in it.
We think it's the right piece of legislation. We don't think that there's any deterrent for commercial and industrial developers to continue to think of our community as a desirable place to be. And then additionally, with those cost savings, ideally to the property taxpayers, they would have more discretionary income to spend in the businesses in our community. So we think it's a win-win for everyone.
Kansas Democrats are attempting to tackle the issue of affordability in a different way. They are focused more on lowering housing and healthcare costs. They hope to do this by pushing to legalize marijuana and increasing taxes for rich Kansans. Tomorrow, the Senate committee will hear from those who are in opposition of the new proposed amendment, including the Kansas National Education Association and the city of Overland Park. Working for you in the studio, I'm Braden Day.
All right, Brandon, thanks so much. Joined now by Washburn economist Paul Byrne. Professor Byrne, thanks so much for being with us as always.
Happy to be here.
Now, you studied this plan. What are your thoughts on its current structure as it stands?
Well, the property taxes are set in a very different way than things like sales taxes and income taxes, especially for local property taxes. The way property taxes are set is that the local government, whether it's a city, whether it's a county, they set the budget. And then that budget, based on that budget, it goes to the county clerk, and the county clerk sets the tax rate so that it can generate enough revenue to meet that budget. So it's a little bit different than some of the other taxes. So this proposed amendment, what it does is it limits the growth in the assessed value, which is a percentage of the fair market value of property. So in and of itself, that actually doesn't put a constraint on what governments can collect, because if they set the once they set the budget, whether property values have gone up by 10% or 5%, it doesn't really make a difference in terms of what people pay. It just changes the tax rate that the county clerk is going to set. So I think the reason the advocates or the proponents for this constitutional amendment are trying to kind of rectify a situation where often local governments will say, oh, we didn't change the mill levy, right? But in reality, if the property tax or if the property values went up by 10%, even if they didn't technically set the mill levy, they just set the budget. It means that they could raise their budget amount by that same 10%, and we end up with the same mill levy. So there's a little bit of misinformation, or it puts a lot of the pressure on the county appraiser, who really doesn't have any say in the matter. The county appraiser is just setting the appraisal based on the fair market value. So in and of itself, this doesn't really change how much taxes people are going to pay. If everybody's property values go up by 10%, and this limits it so that the appraiser can't increase the assessed value by anything more than 3%, it just means that the levy is going to be set at a higher rate. So it doesn't put any constraints. It does eliminate that situation where the local governments can say, oh, we kept the levy the same, or we lowered the levy. People think that means their property taxes aren't going to go up, but if the budget went up, property taxes are going to go up.
All right. Still, there were some concerns from Democrats about the local control aspect, and so I did ask the Senate president, how does he plan to shield local governments from any loss of revenue if that happens? Here's what he had to say.
I'm not interested in protecting the local government. I'm interested in protecting the citizen. And the local governments have the authority and they can work. And I'm not concerned. If 3% growth is sufficient, it's sufficient. The people paying the bill aren't guaranteed a 3% raise every year. So the priority is definitely the individual.
How do you think we could see local governments react to this, Paul? Could we see them shift to new taxes, service cuts, fees?
Well, it might put some downward pressure on what they set their budget at, because now, right, people are maybe a little bit more aware of how that budget is going to be impacting their property taxes. So if it forces them to set lower budgets, they're probably going to have to either raise sales taxes or kind of constrain their spending and cut back on some services.
Real quick, Professor, if local governments get in trouble, if their spending for whatever reason exceeds that cap, is there anything state lawmakers can do to help them out with additional revenue they might need?
Well, that would go through the regular budget process. If they get to a situation where they feel like local government services are kind of lagging behind because they're being constrained politically by this constitutional amendment, that would just create some pressure. But every agency has pressure. The legislature has pressure. They don't want to raise taxes. The local governments will have pressure not to raise taxes as well.
All right, Paul, thanks so much. Some other big issues coming up in the governor's speech, including a ban on cell phones in classrooms across the state. Where things stand at the State House, Bob Beatty is in with the highlights straight ahead.
And Republicans are taking another swing at banning gender marker changes for driver's licenses. What's inside the new plan coming up? We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
7 tracts of productive farm ground, grazing, hunting, and home sites offered at the Pottawatomie County Land Auction, Thursday, February 12th at 6:30. Details at chaoscrossroads.com. Crossroads Real Estate and Auction, turning opportunity into ownership.
Local business is essential to the success of our community, and Manhattan's best are open for business, supporting our neighbors, our community, and investing in the future. Shop local and remember Manhattan's best, like K-State Credit Union and Wainwright Eye Care.
Moving, no task is too big. From moving, junk removal, or delivery, whatever the job, we've got you covered. We're a local family-run crew that treats your home with respect and your time like it matters. Skip the stress. Call City Boys. Let's get moving.
I would refer anyone that has been in an injury accident to call Devon James. They care about you, they get to know you, they're authentic. Their sense of integrity and trustworthiness is outstanding. They constantly were looking out for my best interest, and they really helped me to get what was fair from the insurance company. They did everything that they promised me, and it was a great experience.
Topeka ER and Hospital is proud to partner with 27 News to celebrate the amazing women who make our community stronger, kinder, and better every day.
Watch Everything Woman on 27 News, sponsored by Topeka ER and Hospital, Washburn University, and Sharp Honda.
Saddle up, homeowners. At Messler Roofing, Siding, and Windows, we're not just about improving your home, we're about protecting it like a champion. Our dedicated team, along with our fun-loving mascots, are here to defend your home against the blitz of hot summers and cold winters. Whether it's top-rated roofing, energy-efficient windows, or durable siding, we've got you covered.
Messler Roofing, Siding, and Windows. One call, one name, one trusted team.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. A ban on cell phones in schools.
It's a priority for Republicans and Democrats this session, and one of the things the governor also called for in her speech.
Yeah, well, here's a look at what's inside the plan.
In a packed committee room at the Kansas State House, locals went back and forth about a new law that aims to ban phones in Kansas schools.
The research is very clear that phones don't belong in schools. They distract from learning, focus, engagement.
The legislature has no authority in this area, and even if everything in the bill is good, it's not their job by the Constitution and by the law.
Those against the bill say the new law would eliminate local control. Currently, individual school districts and communities are responsible for implementing their own cell phone policies, but this would go away if the new cell phone ban is passed.
I think the bill needs a lot more flexibility so that districts of different size can adjust to what their communities want. And this bill is overly broad. This is just where mandates get into trouble. We have districts with fewer than 100 kids and more than 45,000. There's no way you can write a bill that has language that's going to fit all those districts.
However, proponents of the bill argue that local control hasn't been working for Kansas families and that the state needs to take action.
I believe this state law is necessary because local districts aren't doing it. I am in a district where we had over 1,000 people sign a petition for a bell-to-bell phone-free policy, and our district didn't do it for K through 12. They didn't listen to the parents.
Ultimately, lawmakers across parties are largely in agreement that the bill needs to be passed, and even Governor Laura Kelly has confirmed that she plans to sign the bill if it gets to her desk.
And Bob Beatty here with us now, and Bob, we just had those flip phones when I was in school. It wasn't really an issue. So this obviously could get some pushback. How do you think the local districts are going to respond?
Rob, you're killing me. When I was a kid, we were lucky if we had a landline.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah. No, obviously there is this local issue. We're talking school boards versus the state legislature, and we heard some of that in the interviews that you did. There's going to be some pushback because really school boards and counties and cities, they often don't like it when the legislature tells them what to do. On the other hand, I guess I would say this has been a long time coming. Ironically, though, it's happened quick. So it's sort of been building and building and building, and then boom, oh boy, it's going to happen. In fact, I was surprised to hear, I was at the State of the State by the governor, and she just flat out said, send me a cell phone ban, I'm going to sign it. It's like, wow, okay. It's come really quick. I think we heard that, again in 2024, the school boards offered guidance, and many people don't think that it's actually not working. I think what they're saying is that some schools are still allowing cell phone use, and at least the legislature believes that the majority of Kansans just want it out of the classroom. And keep in mind, in places like Australia, just for example, they are now banning social media use for, I think, for teenagers, I think under 15 or 16. It's really something that's not just statewide, it's nationwide, it's even international.
Bob, on one hand, you have some people that would say, yes, ban cell phones in schools, it gets rid of the distractions. Parents may even be overjoyed by this, teachers, of course. But on the other hand, I think we could see some pushback on this, especially when it comes to questions about what happens in the case of an emergency. Kids not having cell phones in schools. Let's say there's another school shooting, hopefully it doesn't happen, but in the case that happens, what could we see there? And then also local control is another aspect of this. Some districts may not like a statewide blanket mandate. They may want some flexibility in how they implement this.
They're not going to like it. Some aren't going to like it. And now some interesting facets, you're right, about the bill is it does allow for exceptions for some students who may need a cell phone or device, or there's a medical reason. So there are some exceptions, but yeah, it's going to be pretty much across the board. So ironically, Rob was alluding to his childhood, it's really going back to something that young people aren't familiar with, but older people, even us, are familiar with, what it was like. And I know young people don't like to hear it, but it's, you know, we think we did okay without them. And but Rebecca, you're right, they're going to have to set up systems that work for emergencies, for students that need to contact their parents. Back in my day, you know, we just went to the office and we called home. One really fascinating aspect of this bill is there's also language in there that concerns teachers. They will ban teachers from directly communicating with students via social media. And that's, to me, interesting to put that in there as well. That tells me that there's maybe been a bit of a problem with the usage of cell phone and social media and teachers and students getting you know, too personal. So that's a part that really hasn't been reported on much, but I found really interesting.
Because there's multiple sides to this, how do you think this will go over with voters in the upcoming election?
You know, great question. It's happened so quick that I have no idea. You know, these are legislators. The House is up for re-election. We got gubernatorial candidates, and they seem pretty confident that this is what people want. Again, it's sort of been a trend nationwide that's gone really quickly. In fact, you almost wonder if the U.S. Congress might put in something involving, like Australia's done. I think it will be overly popular because they're framing it as the mental health and then learning for students. I personally, you know, teach a university class, and I've started banning cell phones in the classroom, and I think it's gotten a lot better.
All right.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thanks, Bob. Of course, another issue on the table, gender markers on driver's licenses. The bill has already been introduced, and lawmakers just wrapped up an informational hearing on the issue last week.
Yeah, this is probably one of the top issues this session, Rob. The Kansas Attorney General urging lawmakers to update the law after losing a court case to ban gender marker changes on licenses last year. Now, this new bill would redefine gender in Kansas law to match the definition of sex. In Kansas, that means the sex you were assigned at birth, either male or female. So this bill would ban gender marker changes on birth certificates as well. And I spoke with Republican and Democratic leadership. Here's what they both had to say about that plan.
I mean, those are vital statistics in my mind, right? If you can, a birth certificate and a driver's license, that says that's something factual about an individual. So I am a proponent of fixing that.
The Supreme Court has been very clear in saying that the law was unconstitutional, and so he's taking another stab at us fixing a law because he lost in court once again.
And Bob, this law extends beyond driver's licenses like we mentioned. If this bill passes, could it accomplish what Republicans have been seeking to do, which is putting an end to gender marker changes on vital records and IDs? Or could this hold up also in a court of law if challenged?
So I'm smiling because that's a loaded question. Because so let me answer it, you know, in steps. Because the first step is if it passes, which I think it probably will, then yes, you know, these changes to IDs, vital records, and birth certificates, driver's license, of course, would not be allowed, and it'd be retroactive. So people who had changed would have to go back to their sex at birth. But of course, it will be challenged in court, just like the previous bill was. And I have no idea how that will turn out. And then, of course, a judge could issue a stay, which means that while it plays out through the courts, there are no changes. So it could go on for quite a while, you never know. But certainly this is an attempt by the legislature essentially to sort of fix the bill that they previously passed, where there was some confusion about the terms sex and versus gender, and they want to make sex and gender mean the same thing, and then that would ban a transgender individual from changing anything. One really interesting fact, I had to look this up, I guess, because I had forgotten, is that passports can be changed. So it is a bit of, you know, this is happening in various states. It's just sort of an interesting thing that you can have a U.S. passport saying you're one gender, and then you could have if this passes, a Kansas driver's license with a different one. So you can see there's continuous change in how this issue is being played out throughout the nation.
Interesting. Bob, thanks so much. When we come back, Governor Kelly's budget is in, what she's got in store for her final year in office, and how she plans to make those ideas a reality.
We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
The Central Topeka Weather Cam, sponsored by Eaton Roofing and Exteriors.
I'm attorney Mike DePasquale. We hear this all the time. I don't need a lawyer. I can handle it myself. That's a bad decision. We've handled thousands of these cases. If you've been hurt, call me. Got this.
Change the way you live by changing the way you sleep. It's the New Year's celebration event now at the Mattress Hub. Relax in luxury with free adjustable bases, free delivery, and our famous 1-year comfort guarantee. Hurry in and save up to 50% off, only at the Mattress Hub.
For over 75 years, we've been serving loyal customers and have been a trusted name in the automotive industry. Performance Tire and Auto is here for you.
Whether you're looking at high-performance tires for the best ride or budget-friendly all-season tires, we're here for you.
We have 2 convenient locations, well-trained technicians, and service staff that genuinely want to help you take care of your vehicle. Performance Tire and Auto is here for you.
Honesty and transparency is our #1 goal. Trust Performance Tire and Auto and experience the difference. We're here for you.
Noller Auto Group is proud to partner with Helping Hands Humane Society this January to support animals in need during the winter months.
Cold weather and post-holiday slowdown create a capacity crisis at our local shelter, but you can help make a difference.
Now through January 31st, Noller Auto Group will match every donation made on the shelter's Facebook page.
You can provide care, comfort, and hope for animals waiting on their chance in a loving home.
Join us in supporting the future they deserve.
Watching all new Kelly. I'll be there.
Me too.
Next, Kelly. So you went to the U.S. Open together.
We were on the kiss cam.
You kind of made it a kiss cam.
Yeah, and I said, give me a kiss, Retta.
Monday at 3 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Kansas lawmakers will be making their own budget again this year, but before that, Governor Kelly is pushing her own agenda.
Yeah, the governor wants to increase funding for a number of services. Well, this includes community-based waivers that support disabled Kansans, as well as school lunches, which she wants to make free for more than 30,000 students. However, a more controversial request made by Kelly was her recommendation to increase funding for the SNAP program here in Kansas. Well, after President Donald Trump signed the, quote, big beautiful bill back in July, the federal government will be withholding funding used to help states run the food assistance program. Now, Governor Kelly wants to use $12.1 million in state funding, general funds, to make up for this lost funding. But Republicans we've spoken with say that they're more focused on making sure that Kansans who are on the SNAP program are eligible for it.
We have had a very high error rate, and we're going to get penalized for that if we don't get that down below 6%. So I think really we are focusing on making sure that there's no fraud, waste, and abuse in that program. If we do that, we will have the funds to cover the people who truly need the program.
Well, the funding bill passed by President Trump also penalizes states who have an error rate over 6%. Kansas is currently at about 9%.
And the governor is also calling for fully funding K-12 schools and increasing money for special education. Bob, how much of the governor's budget recommendations will lawmakers actually incorporate this year? Could we see compromise in certain areas and pushback on others?
Well, it's a very, this sounds odd. It's a big budget, of course. It's about 1.5%, larger than last year's. But when you think about inflation, it's not that big a significant increase. I think, Rebecca, the big difference is there's no big ticket items here. There's no calls for tax cuts, which we know in the past can be $1 billion a year. There's no Medicaid expansion, which can be really expensive. So what we're talking about here are relatively small asks by the governor. For example, the free school lunches will be $2.5 million. That's not a lot, in light of everything else. Even the food stamps we were just hearing about would be about $12 million. She wants $70 million for state hospitals. That's for health care. And then she wants to increase special ed $50 million. I don't know if she'll get all those things, simply because sometimes the Republican majority doesn't want to work too closely with the governor. But they're not big asks. The interesting part will be how much the legislature tries to cut. So you get this push-pull on the cutting, and the cuts could come from higher ed. They could come from the food stamps program we heard. And Laura Kelly has one more year and we know, will use that veto pen, in which case if you're going to cut programs, the Republicans will have to come up with a supermajority, and that might be kind of tough.
Well, definitely from higher ed, because we did see that they've hired the former Emporia State president to kind of adjust for higher ed budget cuts.
This is the last year of Kelly's administration. If a Republican governor wins the race, you may not see as big a conflicts, possibly, but I think in terms of cuts, she will definitely veto a number of those if they happen to happen.
All right, Bob, thanks so much. And the upcoming election could play a big role in what action we see lawmakers take this session.
Yeah, what moves forward and what's getting put on the back burner. We're going to tell you next. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Busy parents have a lot to remember. You have to remember your kids don't eat crusts, pack healthy snacks, and leave the house on time. But you don't have to worry about the shades. They'll close themselves. Request a free consultation today.
This winter, keep your home safe and healthy with a furnace safety evaluation from Cobb Valley Heating and Cooling. For a limited time, use promo code KVHC 2026 and get your safety evaluation for just $49. Schedule today and enjoy peace of mind all season long.
27 Sports is sponsored by Groundworks, your local trusted expert for foundation and concrete repair.
Briggs Auto Group, locally owned since 1979. We're proud to be your trusted dealership, standing by fair and transparent pricing with no surprise fees. Our sales professionals are trained, non-commissioned experts, focused on helping find the right vehicle and not just making a sale. Come experience our first-class care before and after the purchase. Come see us at Briggs Auto Group, where trust matters and customers are number one.
Hey, look what's going on at Briggs Auto. Briggs!
All right, Team USA, listen up. Whoa, I just got chills. You guys feel that? It's an honor to speak to you all before you head off to the Olympics. You're going to Milan to bring home the biggest prize of all.
Canadian tears.
Yeah. Exactly. Wait, what? What did Canada do?
Stuff.
But they're usually so polite.
Not anymore.
Really? No. Are we sure we can't just hug it out? No. Go get them, boys.
Tonight, the NFC Championship is on Fox. Matthew Stafford and LA aim to keep their thrilling playoff run alive.
Touchdown!
Against Sam Darnold and top-seeded Seattle. It's Rams, Seahawks, Part 3. The NFC Championship presented by Intuit TurboTax. Tonight at 6 Eastern on Fox.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Finally this morning, we're taking a look at how this year's election could impact what we see at the State House.
Bob, during an election year, it's not just about policy. A lot of what we see could be impacted by what's coming up in November. And what could that be?
Well, for sure. I mean, we have several gubernatorial candidates in the actual legislature, 3 from the Senate. So yes, this is a big session. Ironically, though, I get the feeling that because there's so many candidates running for office and also the whole House is running, that they may want to get this session over with quickly. So that sort of pushes against trying to get something big done. But what big things could be done? Well, again, something to do with cutting taxes, most likely property taxes. The problem is, boy, that's a tough issue, but boy, they'd like to get that, and then they could go campaign on it. Maybe on the Republican side, the whole DEI issue, appealing to people that want to see more anti-DEI. So we could see that on the gubernatorial side. The other is redistricting. And I think that's an interesting one because the Republicans are really trying to push it. We're talking congressional redistricting. But we have 2 Democrats in the Senate that are against it. And then it would help them in a primary to say that they fought against it. So it's an issue that cuts both ways.
All right.
All right. Very interesting. Thanks so much, Bob.
Sure. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on X at @InKSPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics.
We're also going to post a full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check out Inside Kansas Politics on KSNT.com for past episodes. If you do have a story you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com.
We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.